Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Jen. And thanks to all of you for making this a priority to be here tonight. Normally, as I travel around the country, I talk about the power of God working through the prayers and fasting of His faithful people, working to save lives from abortion. But as I was praying specifically about what to share here tonight, God led me in a totally different direction and put on my heart that I needed to share a personal story from my own life. And it's a story I've never shared publicly before. You see, my background is that I was raised in the Protestant church. I was very blessed to marry an incredible Catholic woman, Margaret. But we went for our marriage preparation to an engaged encounter in Dallas, Texas. And during that marriage preparation, they brought up the topic of natural family planning by saying, if you're interested in learning about this topic, here's a phone number to call. And then they went on to the next topic. Now at that point in our spiritual walk, which was very immature, we breathed a sigh of relief because we didn't want to hear that message. So we began our marriage, I must confess, very selfishly. Oh, we wanted children, but we wanted them on our time, the way we wanted, on our terms. And so we were living our happy lives, we were pursuing our careers, making money, traveling, having a great time. And after a few years, we finally decided that, yes, we were ready for children. But God wasn't ready. And what we didn't know was that we had a serious issue of infertility. And so for 3 years, we tried going to various different doctors in our community, and they were cold and they were impersonal. And they didn't offer us much hope, and the few possibilities they offered us disgusted us and cost a fortune. And so for 3 years, we hoped, we tried, and each month we would cry with disappointment as we found out yet again, not this month. But God blessed us in a special way when some friends asked us to speak at a pre-Cana marriage preparation workshop in our community we had moved to of Bryan, College Station, Texas. And at that workshop, we heard a presentation by a gentleman named Randy McCaslin. And Randy was the director of Natural Family Planning for the Diocese of Austin we were a part of. And Randy, in that next hour, offered the most compelling, articulate, profound, and unapologetic presentation about natural family planning that I have ever heard. And as he shared all of that, my background, I was working at the time in the pharmaceutical industry. And scientifically and logically, it all made sense. And Margaret, who was growing by leaps and bounds in her Catholic faith at that point, she was fascinated by the beauty and the wisdom of the church teachings. And so, what captivated us the most was the very fact that during that presentation they shared that natural family planning was not only about spacing children, was not only about being open to the beauty of life, but also that natural family planning offered diagnostic and therapeutic benefits for couples who were experiencing fertility challenges. And at that point, everything else we had tried had failed. And so we said, let's give it a try. We met with Randy McCaslin, and he suggested that we begin charting. And for the next 3 months, we met with our fertility care practitioner, a young lady named Shawn, and we charted religiously. And finally, they took all those charts and they sent them up to Omaha, Nebraska, to Dr. Thomas Hilgers at the Pope Paul VI Institute, because they said he was the best in the country at being able to diagnose these situations. Dr. Hilgers reviewed these charts. He looked at them and said, I need blood work. And I watched my courageous wife several times a week go to the local hospital with bruises on her arms, and more needles were inserted as they drew more blood. And she packaged it up on dry ice day after day, shipping it off to the Pope Paul VI Institute by FedEx. And Dr. Hilgers looked at the blood work in our charts, and he said, it looks like you have a hormonal imbalance that's preventing pregnancy. And he said, it looks to me like you also might have polycystic ovarian disease. And so at that point, we had a decision to make. He recommended laparoscopic surgery to be able to diagnose and treat this. And when we met with Randy McCaslin, he was very honest with us, and he said, it's a very expensive thing to pursue. I would recommend going to Omaha because Dr. Hilgers is the very best at doing this. He said, but it's not only the cost of the surgery, but it's the travel. It's over a week's lodging and any ongoing treatments that you have. But Randy put it all into perspective for us. After he told us that insurance likely wouldn't cover this, he said, you know what, it'll probably end up costing you about as much as a brand new car. But he said, which is more important, a brand new car or a child? And the answer was clear. And in June 1997, we headed to Omaha. When we arrived at the Pope Paul VI Institute and we met Dr. Hildreth and his staff, we were in awe of the spirituality and the holiness of these people. We went to the chapel they had there at the Institute and we prayed through every step of the process. He ran tests on Margaret, and a few days later she was taken to Bergen Mercy Hospital there in Omaha, and the surgery was performed. And before she even woke up from the anesthetic, Dr. Hildreth came out and told me that he felt good about what had happened. He'd done the laparoscopy. He found a lot of endometriosis, had burned it out with a laser. And he said, indeed, she did have polycystic ovarian disease, and he began to recommend therapy for her. A few days later, as Margaret recovered there in Omaha, we went back to the Pope Paul VI Institute for our final meeting with Dr. Hildreth before we headed home. He said, I think you'll be able to have children, but there are no guarantees. He said, but you're going to have to be patient. At the bare minimum, it will take 6 months, likely 18 or more months before we even know. And we went home, and 30 days later, Margaret was pregnant with Claire. So on August 8th, 1998, our daughter Claire was born, and we were blessed with one more soul. And the photo of Claire was sent to the Pope Paul VI Institute, and still today it is on their miracle baby wall. After Claire, we experienced a tragic miscarriage, and then after that, with the help of Dr. Hildreth and natural family planning and lots of progesterone shots that Margaret endured week after week, we were blessed with the birth of our son Patrick on August 20th of 2002. And we were blessed with a second soul in our family. And now there is yet another miracle baby photo on Dr. Hildreth's wall. And Claire and Patrick and Margaret, would you all stand up? I just want everybody to understand the beauty that you have been to me and to our family. And the reason that I am so passionate about the work of One More Soul is because the message this organization shares throughout the world is the message that enabled us to have this blessing of our children that I could never put a price tag on. And I just wanted to end with one final note to that story that really, it's a story that really never has an end, because we always continue to spread the good news everywhere we can, and then somebody else will pick up that baton and carry it long beyond our lifetime. But a few years ago, about 2.5, I was asked to go to Omaha again. This time to speak at a banquet for a pregnancy resource center. And for whatever reason, I wasn't meant to be there that night in time for the banquet because I was stuck in Arkansas. There was a tornado. They ended up rerouting us down to Texas. I ended up getting stranded there. And literally, my plane arrived in Omaha airport 30 minutes after the banquet ended. The people from the banquet came and picked me up, and they understood it wasn't my fault, but they took me to coffee to be nice and to spend some time. And as I was there talking with them, in the back of my mind I was wondering, why didn't I make it to this event? I really felt I was supposed to be here. Why didn't it work out? But as I was there, I shared with them how excited I was to be back in Omaha. And I told them the story of what had happened the last time we came to Omaha. And as I told the story, a girl, a young lady sitting across the table from me, began to tear up, and tears began streaming down her face. And she shared with me that she herself had also experienced fertility challenges with her husband, and they didn't know where to turn. They had never heard about natural family planning. They didn't know anything about Dr. Hildreth and the Pope Paul VI Institute, even though it was right in their backyard. And so a seed was planted. And as I left Omaha, I never knew if that seed would bear fruit. And it wasn't until much later that I heard the news that indeed that couple began the same process that Margaret and I had began. And today there is yet another miracle baby photo on Dr. Hildreth's wall. So my message to you tonight is simply this. God can, God will use you. Your support of One More Soul, your willingness to share this beautiful message about the glory and the beauty and the sanctity of life, the wonder of children and the openness to life, can and will make a profound difference, and there will be many more families blessed with many more souls. And ultimately, I believe through your faithfulness to this critical mission, we can all look forward to that day when we arrive in our heavenly home and meet our Maker and hear those beautiful words. Well done, good and faithful servant.